A single meaningful conversation can awaken more insight than years of silent effort. Human intelligence does not grow in isolation. It is born in interaction, sharpened in dialogue, and refined in reflection. We may process thoughts alone, but our understanding of people is always formed in contact with others. Communication is not simply about exchanging information. It is about navigating subtle emotional currents that most people never consciously notice. Many assume that communication is about being articulate, but real influence is not about vocabulary. It is about awareness. Awareness of timing, awareness of emotional climate, awareness of the invisible signals beneath the surface of words. To communicate effectively, a person must understand four dimensions: what to say, when to say it, who to say it to, and how to say it. Most communication fails not because the content is wrong, but because one of these four elements is misaligned. The right sentence delivered at the wrong time creates resistance. The right idea expressed in the wrong tone creates defensiveness. The right message directed at the wrong audience creates indifference. What to say requires psychological accuracy. You must sense what truly matters to the other person. People rarely respond to logic alone. They respond to perceived relevance. If your words connect to their concerns, their fears, their desires, they lean in. If not, they withdraw. When to say it requires emotional timing. There are moments when people are open and moments when they are closed. When someone feels threatened, tired, embarrassed, or overwhelmed, their cognitive openness narrows. Even the most rational message will be filtered through emotional defense. Who to say it to requires social intelligence. Every person operates within a network of identity. Their role, their status, their insecurities, their ambitions. The same message must be framed differently for a superior, a colleague, a partner, or friend. Communication is never universal. It is always relational. How to say it requires mastery of tone, rhythm, pace, and body language. Words represent only a portion of the signal. The rest is carried in facial tension, micropauses, eye contact, posture, and subtle shifts in voice. People do not just hear what you say. They feel how you say it. True communicators pay attention to details others overlook. The slight tightening of a jaw, the brief avoidance of eye contact, the change in breathing, the delayed response. These are not random behaviors. They are psychological indicators. Communication is less about speaking and more about observing. The person who listens deeply controls the direction of the exchange. The person who notices emotional shifts adjusts strategy in real time. This is not manipulation. It is awareness. Those who ignore details rely on force. Those who notice details rely on precision. Precision requires patience. It requires slowing down enough to detect emotional texture. Most people rush through conversations trying to prove a point. Skilled communicators study the emotional atmosphere before they move. When you begin to notice communication details, you realize that conversations are layered. There's a literal layer of words. Beneath it, the emotional layer. Beneath that, the layer of identity protection. And beneath that, the layer of unspoken need. If you learn to navigate these layers, you no longer react impulsively. You respond strategically. You stop taking resistance personally. You start recognizing it as emotional defense. You stop pushing harder. You start adjusting smarter. Communication mastery is not about dominance. It is about alignment. When timing, tone, audience, and message align, influence happens naturally. To influence without visible force, you must first control yourself. The person who reacts emotionally loses precision. Emotional reactivity blinds perception. When your own pride, fear, or urgency takes control, your ability to read others diminishes. Self-regulation is the foundation of communication power. If you cannot regulate your tone, your facial expressions, or your pacing, your words lose credibility. People are highly sensitive to incongruence. When what you say does not match how you say it, they trust the nonverbal signal over the verbal one. Details reveal intention. A rushed answer suggests anxiety. A long pause suggests hesitation or calculation. Over-explaining often signals insecurity. Minimal responses can signal disengagement. These micro-behaviors communicate more than formal statements ever could. Effective communicators understand that persuasion is rarely direct. It is subtle. Instead of confronting resistance head-on, they redirect attention. Instead of arguing, they ask calibrated questions. Instead of asserting authority, they create psychological safety. Psychological safety lowers defensive barriers. When people feel respected, they reveal more information. When they reveal more information, influence becomes easier because understanding becomes deeper. The greatest communication mistake is focusing only on outcome. When you obsess over winning the argument, you ignore the emotional cost. When someone feels defeated, they remember the emotional impact long after they forget the logical content. Lasting influence depends on dignity preservation. People need to feel respected even when they are corrected. They need to feel autonomous even when they are guided. If you remove their sense of agency, they resist unconsciously. Communication is a dynamic system. It shifts moment by moment. A single word can escalate tension. A slight softening of tone can dissolve it. A pause can create reflection. A smile can lower threat perception. These are small details with disproportionate psychological impact. The person who masters communication, details rarely appears aggressive. They appear calm, composed, observant. Their influence is quiet but effective. They do not overwhelm. They guide. They do not dominate. They shape direction subtly. In every conversation, there is an invisible negotiation taking place. A negotiation of respect, status, safety, and identity. If you become aware of this hidden negotiation, you stop speaking blindly. You begin speaking intentionally. Mastery of communication is not about speaking more. It is about noticing more. It is about adjusting faster than others perceive. It is about sensing when to advance and when to pause. When you learn to respect emotional timing, to read subtle cues, to align message with identity, and to maintain your own composure, communication becomes effortless. Influence feels natural. Resistance softens. Conversations flow with clarity. In the end, those who win people over are not the loudest voices in the room. They are the most attentive. They understand that details are never small. In communication, details are power.